The year was 1993. It was a time of significant global change, with the world witnessing the end of the Cold War and the beginning of new geopolitical dynamics. Amidst this backdrop, a historic event unfolded that promised to reshape the Middle East. The world watched with bated breath as Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin and PLO Chairman Yasser Arafat shook hands on the White House lawn. This handshake was more than a mere gesture. It was a symbol of hope and a potential turning point in a conflict that had spanned decades. This historic moment marked the signing of the Oslo Accords, a framework for peace between Israelis and Palestinians. The Accords were the result of secret negotiations held in Oslo, Norway, and represented a significant diplomatic breakthrough. For a brief period, hope blossomed. People on both sides of the conflict, as well as international observers, dared to dream of a future where peace was possible. Celebrations erupted, and the air was filled with a sense of optimism. The Accords promised a two-state solution, envisioning an independent Palestine existing peacefully alongside Israel. This vision was seen as a fair and just resolution to a conflict that had caused immense suffering and loss. The Oslo Accords were groundbreaking. They represented the first time that both sides had formally agreed to a process aimed at achieving peace. The documents signed that day laid out a series of steps and mutual commitments. They represented a willingness to negotiate after decades of conflict. The negotiations were complex and fraught with challenges, but the willingness to come to the table was a significant achievement in itself. Palestinians recognized Israel's right to exist, a monumental step that signaled a shift in their approach to the conflict. This recognition was a cornerstone of the Accords and a prerequisite for any meaningful progress. Israel in turn acknowledged the PLO as the representative of the Palestinian people. This mutual recognition was unprecedented and laid the groundwork for future negotiations. This mutual recognition was a crucial step. It signified a departure from the past and a move towards a future where dialogue and negotiation could replace violence and hostility. The Accords were not perfect, but they offered a roadmap. This roadmap outlined a series of steps that both sides would take to build trust and move towards a final peace agreement. They outlined a 5-year interim period. During this time, both sides were expected to take concrete actions to improve relations and lay the groundwork for a lasting peace. During this time, Palestinians would gain self-governance in Gaza and parts of the West Bank. This was a significant step towards the establishment of a Palestinian state and a key component of the Accords. Final status issues, such as Jerusalem and refugees, would be negotiated later. These issues were recognized as being particularly sensitive and complex, requiring careful and sustained negotiation. The signing ceremony was electric. The atmosphere was charged with emotion as leaders and citizens alike recognized the significance of the moment. World leaders hailed the courage of Rabin and Arafat. Their willingness to take risks for peace was seen as an example for others to follow. The image of the handshake became a symbol of peace. It was a powerful reminder of what could be achieved when adversaries chose dialogue over conflict. Could this be the end of a long and bloody conflict? The question lingered in the air as people dared to hope that a new chapter was beginning. The world held its breath, daring to hope. The Oslo Accords were a beacon of possibility, a testament to the power of diplomacy and the enduring human desire for peace. The optimism of Oslo was short-lived. Violence continued, casting a long shadow over the peace process. Extremists on both sides rejected compromise. Terrorist attacks by Hamas and other Palestinian groups fueled Israeli fears. The assassination of Yitzhak Rabin in 1995 dealt a devastating blow to the peace process. Rabin, a former general, had taken a political risk for peace. His assassination by a Jewish extremist shocked the world. It also underscored the deep divisions within Israeli society. The peace process lost its most ardent champion. The assassination had a chilling effect on negotiations. Trust, already fragile, eroded further. The Israeli public, grieving and fearful, became more skeptical of peace. The political landscape shifted to the right. Benjamin Netanyahu, leader of the Likud party, capitalized on the growing disillusionment. He was elected prime minister in 1996, promising a more hardline approach towards the Palestinians. Netanyahu's victory marked a turning point, signaling a shift away from the Oslo vision. The failure to make progress on final status issues fueled tensions. The Palestinian Authority, led by Yasser Arafat, grew frustrated with the slow pace of negotiations. Settlements continued to expand in the West Bank, angering Palestinians. The status of Jerusalem, holy to both Jews and Muslims, remained a major point of contention. In 2000, negotiations collapsed at Camp David. The summit, hosted by President Clinton, aimed to reach a final agreement. However, disagreements over Jerusalem and refugees proved insurmountable. The failure of Camp David led to a rapid deterioration of the situation. The Second Intifada erupted in September 2000. This Palestinian uprising was marked by violence and bloodshed. Suicide bombings within Israel terrorized civilians. The Israeli military responded with force, conducting incursions into Palestinian territories. The Second Intifada had a devastating impact on both societies. Thousands were killed on both sides. The conflict deepened mistrust and resentment. The peace process, already fragile, was shattered. Section 4. Netanyahu's rise, shifting sands in the Israeli political landscape. The political landscape in Israel has been anything but static, with significant shifts and turns over the past few decades. The Second Intifada, which erupted in the early 2000s, had a profound impact on Israeli politics. This period of intense violence and unrest between Israelis and Palestinians reshaped the political discourse in the country. It strengthened the right wing and its narrative of security over peace. The fear and uncertainty brought about by the Intifada led many Israelis to prioritize security concerns, bolstering right-wing parties that promised a tough stance on terrorism and defense. Benjamin Netanyahu, who had left office in 1999, returned to power in 2009. His return marked a significant shift in Israeli politics as he brought with him a more conservative and security-focused agenda. He has remained Prime Minister for most of the period since then, becoming one of the longest-serving leaders in Israeli history. His tenure has been marked by a series of controversial policies and decisions that have deeply influenced the region. Netanyahu's policies have been characterized by skepticism towards the two-state solution. Despite international pressure, he has often expressed doubts about the feasibility of a Palestinian state existing alongside Israel. He has overseen the continued expansion of Israeli settlements in the West Bank. This policy has been a major point of contention both domestically and internationally as it complicates the prospects for peace. This expansion has further fragmented the territory, making a contiguous Palestinian state increasingly difficult to achieve. The settlements have created a patchwork of Israeli and Palestinian areas, complicating any potential borders. Netanyahu has also taken a hard line against Hamas, which seized control of Gaza in 2007. His government has launched several military operations in Gaza, citing the need to neutralize threats from the militant group. Israel has imposed a blockade on Gaza, citing security concerns. This blockade has been a source of significant tension and has been criticized by many international observers. The blockade has exacerbated the humanitarian crisis in the Strip. The people of Gaza have faced severe shortages of basic necessities, leading to widespread suffering and hardship. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has become increasingly polarized under Netanyahu's leadership. The divisions within Israeli society have deepened, with strong opinions on both sides of the conflict. The prospects for a negotiated two-state solution have dimmed. Efforts to restart peace talks have repeatedly faltered, leaving many to question the viability of this long-standing goal. The international community has struggled to find a way to revive the peace process. Despite numerous attempts and proposals, a lasting solution remains elusive, and the region continues to grapple with the consequences of this protracted conflict. Section 5: Walls and Settlements, Obstacles to a Two-State Solution. The path to peace between Israel and Palestine has been fraught with numerous challenges, and two of the most significant obstacles are the separation barrier and the expansion of Israeli settlements. The Oslo Accords, signed in the 1990s, envisioned a two-state solution with Israel and Palestine living side by side in peace. This historic agreement was seen as a beacon of hope, a step towards ending decades of conflict and establishing a framework for coexistence. However, the reality on the ground has made this vision increasingly difficult to achieve. The daily lives of Palestinians in the West Bank are marked by restrictions and uncertainties, making the dream of a peaceful resolution seem distant. Two major obstacles stand in the way: the separation barrier and the expansion of Israeli settlements. These physical and political barriers have created a complex and often contentious landscape. Israel began constructing the separation barrier in the early 2000s, citing security concerns. The barrier, which includes walls, fences and checkpoints, was intended to prevent attacks and enhance security for Israeli citizens. The barrier, consisting of walls, fences and checkpoints, has significantly restricted Palestinian movement. It has created a daily reality of long waits and limited access, affecting everything from work to healthcare. It has also cut off Palestinian communities from their farmland and resources. Farmers find themselves unable to reach their own land, impacting their livelihoods and the local economy. The expansion of Israeli settlements in the West Bank is another major obstacle to peace. These settlements, built on land that Palestinians see as part of their future state, have grown steadily over the years. Settlements are considered illegal under international law, but Israel disputes this. The international community has repeatedly called for a halt to settlement expansion, but construction continues. The settler population has grown significantly in recent decades, further fragmenting the West Bank and making a contiguous Palestinian state more difficult to achieve. The maps of the region show a patchwork of Israeli and Palestinian areas, complicating any potential borders. The presence of the separation barrier and the expansion of settlements have created a one-state reality on the ground. This reality is characterized by a complex web of control and division, where two peoples live in close proximity, but under vastly different conditions. This reality is one of separation and inequality, with Palestinians living under Israeli control in the West Bank and under blockade in Gaza. The barriers, both physical and political, have deepened the divide, making the prospect of a two-state solution seem increasingly elusive. The ongoing conflict and the lack of progress towards peace continue to affect the lives of millions, highlighting the urgent need for a renewed commitment to dialogue and resolution.